station. This is Daniel Perot with KWWO-TV in Waterloo. How do you hear me?
Hey, Daniel, I've got you loud and clear. Good to be with you today.
We appreciate you taking a couple minutes to talk to us. You've been up there for a couple weeks. What is life like up there on the International Space Station for you?
It's been great. I think my favorite part about it is every day is different, and you actually don't even kind of know what you're doing the next day until the night before. So our schedule's put together by the ground team at Johnson Space Center, who's always trying to balance priorities of science, things that need to get fixed, preventative maintenance, and all the science we have to pack in. So about 300 experiments during the time we're here. And so it's always cool to, right before you go to bed, take a look at the schedule the next day and see what you're slated for. And so I think for me, that's been the best part is having every day be at a kind of a surprise to wake up to, and at the end of the day, knowing, having a great feeling about what you got done.
What has been the biggest adjustment for you over the last couple weeks as you've gotten used to living up on the International Space Station?
I think at this point I know enough to be dangerous. So the first few weeks, I think for me, it took my brain about 2 weeks to sort of adjust. I think for me, the biggest adjustment was just the orientation of things. And so it's very natural. We'll be trained. We have simulators on the ground that look like the space station, and we get so used to doing everything standing on the floor. But in space, obviously, you can use any surface as the floor. And so it takes a while to get used to that. And so whether, if I had to open this locker, the first week or two, I might be really tempted to stand on the floor and do it. But then you realize, well, it's actually a lot more efficient to just put your feet somewhere else and get more leverage. And so just getting used to that, or where to put your feet and where to move around as you're accessing different boxes or tools or cables, and getting comfortable with that is probably the hardest thing to get used to. And once your brain understands that, you can be a lot more efficient and not run into anything. So probably the first week I was here, I left a trail of destruction behind me. As you can see, there's cables and lines running everywhere, connecting all the different experiments as we move things in and out or upgrade equipment. And so as we float through the modules, it's really easy to snag your foot under a cable and pull it out without even knowing you're doing it. And so adjusting to that and realizing that your body is floating all around you as you move takes some time to get used to.
Where were you when you found out that you were going to space, and what has the experience been like? Has it so far been like what you expected it to be?
So where I was actually at the time when I was working on the Demo 2 mission, which was the test mission where Bob and Doug flew the first Crew Dragon up to the space station. And so I was part of the team that was helping work on the commercial crew program to get both Boeing and SpaceX back putting U.S. astronauts into space. And so at the time, that's where I was. And it's been everything I thought it'd be and more up here. And getting to fly on a vehicle that I got to help work on and see as part, as part of the testing phase, it was even a bigger thrill.
What did you do to prepare yourself for this 6-month stay on the space station?
So actually, I've probably been preparing all my life in some sense, whether it was being used to being away from the family or, preparing mentally for that, learning, about engineering and having sort of a working knowledge of the systems we work on, a love of science that I've had since I was a kid, and just the idea of discovery. In terms of, the specifics of NASA, I showed up about 2017. And so about 2 years of what we call basic training, or ASCAN, which is a broad general training to be able to work on the ISS. And then once your mission is assigned, you spend about 18 months focusing on that specific mission and the vehicle that you're going to use to get to space. And so all told, it's about 3.5 to 4 years of training for the increment of science that you do up here on the space station.
What does your family think of you being up on the space station for 6 months? You get to talk to them often?
I do, yeah. So through the wonders of technology, the same satellites that we use to downlink data and the payload information that the scientists use, we also can use to make internet phone calls to our family. And then about once a week, we have the ability to do a video phone call with them as well. So we're able to stay pretty well connected. Obviously, especially as a father with young kids, I'm missing a lot, and that is hard for me and hard for them. But I think both they and I realize it's definitely for the good of a lot more people than just us. And I think think, very similar to military families. We actually have it a lot easier up here. Everyone's trying to take care of us compared to the people who are gone 6 months to a year for the military to places where people don't want to take care of them or we're try to hurt them. So, in that sense, we have it very well, and lots of people taking care of us, lots of support for them on the ground, and lots of support for us here up in space. So we're very blessed, and I'd rather see them every day, but I think every one of us realizes that we're doing a lot more and making a lot more contributions to the general population by giving up a few months up here.
Tell me about some of the projects that you're working on the International Space Station during the day there.
So there's about 300 that we're working on already up here. We just sent a bunch home in the Cargo Dragon, and the Cargo Dragon is unique. It actually lands, and they're able to then pull that science out of it and do more ground analysis. This past week we've been doing, or personally I've been doing some combustion research, and so as you can imagine, fire in space can be a problem. You want to make sure that if you're studying fire, you keep it very contained, and so the research has to do with both what's called cold flames and then also lower emission flames. So trying to find way to have less carbon emissions of combustion, which would obviously have huge implications on Earth. Also, I've been helping this week with some CO2 scrubbing technology demos, and so we have 2 of those going on, which again, clearly if we could reduce carbon dioxide levels, that's a huge benefit to the population. And then also a bunch of plant research, and so we sent down on Cargo Dragon some plant shoots and plant roots that we had harvested up here that they'll analyze at the cellular level. And then the 2 experiments just started this week, one looking at different root growth systems and different methods of getting water and nutrients to plants in space. Right now, it's pretty resource intensive from a time standpoint because it doesn't naturally come out of the ground like it does on Earth. And so there's some new technologies we're testing out to see if we can make that a little easier. And then also what roughly equivalent to stem cell, but for plants research. And so it's cotton stem cell cultures that in space can get really big. On the Earth, because of gravity, those collapse and they break apart. But in space, where there's no gravity, you can get really large cultures. And so we can do some really quick genetic analysis of these modifications. And they're trying to find better drought-resistant crop strains.
You grew up here in Eastern Iowa, grew up in Cedar Falls, went to school here in Waterloo. So how has that shaped your professional journey? And what would you say to a student who is sitting in a Waterloo High School classroom today?
So I think it was a huge part of who I am and who my wife is, who's also from Cedar Falls. So I went, had the benefit of growing up in a town and going to a school where the teachers cared about you as a person. You weren't just a number, and I think that was true of the whole Cedar Falls, Waterloo area. There was a really individualized attention, and that was something that I think made a big difference. And throughout your professional career, we talk a lot about having mentors and people like that. But, in retrospect, I had mentors even as a child, and that was something that was hugely important. And I think what I would tell the people of Eastern Iowa is, it's been great to see Iowa from space. Definitely enjoy the snow. And it's been cool to see the snow line move south as we've made passes over Iowa. But yeah, keep doing great things there in Iowa. And I appreciate all the time and energy people spent and put into raising me there and making us better people. And I think my Midwest upbringing is a big reason why my wife and I are doing the things we do now.
You mentioned the Artemis program. Do you hope to go to the moon or maybe even Mars one day?
I'd love to. I think it's going to be the people watching, the high school students and the grade school students that are going to go there. I think the cool thing about the Artemis program is when we go back to the moon this time, we're going there to stay. And so it's not just a mission or 2 that we're talking about, but we're talking about establishing a long-term presence. And so, the high school and grade school students that are growing up to be engineers and scientists are going to be the ones that solve the problems that take us from the moon to Mars and beyond. And so, I'd love to be a part of that. There's an Artemis development organization within NASA already looking at everything from the booster to get us there to the capsule to get us from Earth orbit to the moon, the gateway around the moon, the lander to get from the gateway down to the moon. So, metal is being bent. There's systems being tested. SLS is flying this year on the uncrewed mission. So things are happening really fast, and it's pretty cool to be a part of all this and being in on the testing and development of these systems.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate you spending a couple minutes to talk to us today.
Daniel, thanks to you guys. And like I said, stay warm there in Iowa. I know it's been chilly lately is what my mom's been telling me.
We'll do our very best.
station. This is Houston ACR. Thank you. That concludes the event.